everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Team, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. Thank you all for tuning in and joining me on this Thursday evening with each Thursday here on the show. Schedule permitting will be a preview of the upcoming indoor and or arena football action. So, of course, I have a couple of guests lined up for you tonight. Very special episode. Should be a fun one, as well as a breakdown of the upcoming action, which not a whole lot to go over. There's one game coming up. And then we will have some more games the following week. But just the one, we can talk a little bit about it, go into it. I apologize that the article did not get put up last night. I've been beat between travel, job, and show, and just everything else going on. But the good news is, though, is that you can listen to me on Saturday if you don't get enough of my voice as is on NBC Phoenix. That's right, AM 1060, Phoenix, Arizona. I'll be joining Dave Isaac, who is one of the media coverage people for the Arizona Rattlers. Always fun to sit next to him up in the media row, as well as do the post-game press conference with. His voice was the one that you heard leading the post-game press conference with the line of questioning. So good times with him. We're going to talk Rattlers and the entire IFL. Should be a good time. That is at 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific, or 2 o'clock Arizona time. So check your local listings and make sure that you are tuned in to NBC Sports AM 1060 Phoenix. But that's going to be a good one. I'm excited about it. I always love being the guest instead of the interviewer, the interviewee instead of the host. There we go. Some combination of that. I prefer to be that from time to time. It's always nice to kind of refresh and, do it from the other side. That's what she said. Anyway, as I mentioned, we do have a great show for you lined up this evening. Not one, but two special guests. First guest coming up in about 10 minutes will be quarterback of the Iowa Barnstormers and Week 1 Offensive Player of the Week, Drew Powell. Very excited to have him back on the show. We'll talk about the Player of the Week honors that he got, as well as Iowa's first win of the season. They're 1-0. There are 3 teams 1-0, 3 teams 0-1. The power rankings came out yesterday, and that's going to go ahead and take us into our headlines. And the headlines are that combine activity has started in the NFL, and I still don't care any more about that than I do any other time that the combine activity has started. I'm sorry, folks. I don't get it. I really don't. Other than Rich Eisen's Run, Rich, Run, which is his running, in work clothes to donate to St. Jude's, I just don't get it, but you can watch Barkley put on a show on the bench press, which is the front page of NFL.com right now. Let's see here. Jim Kelly announced today that his oral cancer has returned. That's very unfortunate for him, but hopefully he can come out on the other side of this one as well. Barkley ties best running back mark with 29 reps on the bench. Rams will trade or release wide receiver Austin. Let's see here. Zimmer believes that if the Vikes don't pick the right QB, that he'll get fired. Yeah, I think that's a little drastic. Okay, like I said yesterday with Bortles, title game or bust. For him, title game or bust. He got into the NFC Championship game. Unless they start out 0-8 next year, I don't see Zimmer getting fired. I really don't. Now, they lost Shermer. I get it. I really do. I understand that that's a huge blow on that offense, but I think they're going to be okay sticking with Keenum. Moving forward, Bridgewater will become a free agent. He can go to the Jets, which I think is where I put him on my ridiculously bold predictions as far as quarterback movement. I still like Cousins in Arizona, but, I'm not an insider, so I really don't have a friggin' clue what's going on. Sam Darnold has 9 3/4-inch hands. Whoop-de-friggin' do. oh my God, the combine, man. It's football, right? This is the first football, air quotes on that we get since the Super Bowl, and it's the path to the future starts here. But I can't get over it. Now, for me, in a position like myself where I have built this, whatever it is that you want to call it, okay? I like to call it the award-winning sports variety show that really is kind of in a league of its own, because I mix it up, I change it up, and I know that some people like that, some people don't. You can't make everyone happy. But the fact is that I took this from an idea on the rooftop of a bar in downtown Spokane that a buddy of mine said I should give it a whirl. And here we are almost 3 years later. It's won an award. I've had numerous guests, actors, celebrities, comedians, bands, wrestlers, you name it. They have been that type of person, that caliber of person has been on the show. I've interviewed them. I've gone to so many events, sporting, music, and otherwise, in my tenure with the show. I've covered Eastern Washington University football games this last year, covered all of the indoor football, branching out to the National Arena League this year, covered a single team my first time doing this, the Spokane Empire, which has catapulted me into so many other things. And then I have covered a music festival and WWE events. I love where the show is, even if this is not my full-time gig that pays the bills, okay? The show has paid for itself, and the show has made leaps and bounds, but it's won an award. And so for me, reflecting on everything and looking back, I could just sit on my ass and expect things to be handed to me because I do this or I've interviewed this person, but I don't. I go out there. I put my money where my mouth is and I make things happen. And that's not like a tooting my own horn thing. That's the reality of it. So what I'm getting at is that there's been a lot of times where people have said some not so nice things about me or the show, like, oh, it's just a podcast, or you'll never go anywhere with this, or this will never be more than a hobby. You name it, I've heard it, as far as the criticism and most of all the pessimism. So I use it. I use it as fuel to continue to raise my own personal bar. I mean, if I would have listened to the first person that said I was a unoriginal, petulant child, or that, I'm growing stale and not making any moves, it's like, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I do, which is putting in the work. And then I'll check in on those people and be like, what exactly is it you say you do here? Because you're not doing anything. Like, I do more than you. And I'm not above doing whatever, because I feel like everything is another avenue that you can go down to a potential opportunity. That's why I've worked with Mark Morris for his comedy specials and showcases. It's not even football, but I love doing it because it's another connection. It's another relationship that I can use and we can both mutually benefit from. So I use the criticism, I use the negative to my advantage. And I think that the show and me personally, it speaks for itself as far as where we are now. And it's not anything to get cocky about, but I am very proud of where the show and where me as a host and media person are since it started. So when it comes to the Combine, I know, long workaround for that one, right? Whew, I got to catch my breath. So when it comes to the Combine, and I've had this conversation with you guys before, Fan Nation, it really comes down to there's going to be negative and bad things said about each and every participant in the Combine. No one is going to have a perfect draft report, right? No one's going to hit every check mark on the scouting report. So I say use it, right? If somebody says that Sam Darnold, his hands are too small, or he's too slow, he can't make adjustments in the pocket, he can't read a defense, whatever, it's up to him to use that how he sees fit. He can ignore it. He can listen to it. If he listens to it, is he going to let it defeat him? Or is he going to use it as fuel to say, oh yeah, watch this? Because that's what I feel the Combine kind of is, as well as media as a whole when it comes to sports and critics, is that, players and coaches can say they don't listen to the media, they don't pay any attention. They do, though. That's the simple truth of it, is that they do. And what they choose to do with what they hear is strictly up to them. I'd like to see each and every one of them prove critics wrong, because why not? Like, what do you have to lose at that point? However, as a person of the media, which I am, you don't want to be the person that says the bad thing that ends up to be completely wrong, and then it comes back to bite you. I mean, the things that were said about Bill Belichick when he got fired from Cleveland and then he got hired in New England. I mean, oh my goodness. The guy that said it was one of the worst coaching moves of all time and that Bill Belichick is whatever. It's like, how stupid does that individual look now? Now, I'm not saying that Bill Belichick used that as fuel going into his new job with New England, but my God, it's got to feel really good to know that somebody said that about you and they were serious. So, Sam Darnold, Saquon Barkley, whoever else in this draft, there are going to be paid professionals that do this for a living, that analyze the data, no matter how right or wrong they may be, and they're going to give their best analysis and evaluation of this player, and anything negative that is said, that athlete can either choose to use it, ignore it, or let it defeat them. But man, I try, I don't want to say I play it safe like I'm some chicken, but I will go all in on the things that I truly believe. And if I don't believe that Sam Darnold is going to be anything special, because I think that there's been too much invested in him in order to be special. Aaron Rodgers, chip on his shoulder. Thought he was going to be the number 1 overall pick. That was Alex Smith. He wasn't. Look where Aaron Rodgers is now. One of the greatest quarterbacks, maybe of all time, but definitely this generation. Tom Brady. I don't even remember like what round or pick he was overall. Russell Wilson, same thing. They all probably had massive chips on their shoulders and have used it very well to their advantage. So to them, I applaud them and everything that they've done. But those that have a lot of positive about them going into this, that is a different beast. So for Sam Darnold, I don't want to be the pessimist, but I don't believe that he is going to be what ESPN and every other media outlet for sports has shoved down our throat and led us to believe, that he is going to be the greatest of all time. I don't buy it. So for that, I could be the guy that gets called out when he's like inducted into the Hall of Fame or winning his 3rd Super Bowl. And for me, that's fine, because I'm okay with being proven wrong. Skip Bayless will never admit that he's wrong, and I think that's stupid. I really, 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 really do. He's wrong a lot and somehow gets paid for this, and yet I don't. But he will never admit when he's wrong. Like, it just bugs the hell out of me. Him and Cowherd, man, they're like a perfect couple. So anyway, that's my rant. That's my whole thing about the NFL and the Combine. Not really much else for breaking news today, but we do have not one but 2 special guests. I was going to do power rankings, and I'll have to save that for after my first guest tonight. So Drew Powell is going to join me here, and so we will be right back with more of the F.A.N show right after this.
This is The Sheet.
Gets me all revved up. My face is now red. My ears are just freaking boiling.
He's so raw that Sky hates him.
Yeah, he had 51 touchdowns, 4,900 total yards.
I know y'all like that, but I got to run. And only in Alabama that could happen, I have to say.
They're so good, man. They would win the Big Ten if they were in the Big Ten.
You could be doing something vision-based in front of you and reach down and grab a handful of insane goodness.
Give it to him. Kudos. I'm clapping like a golfer. Very good, Johnny. I'm proud of you.
Wow, you guys agree on something again? I'm very impressed. You ever had a bad week? You know, just you walk outside, step in a puddle, like right when you walk outside. I mean, how's there a puddle right outside the house? Or you stand on the curb and somebody drives by and splashes water up on you? Or it's just raining on you, not anyone else?
I will tell you, before you go any further, I cannot hear Chad when he speaks. Good.
Here, listen to the sheet, man. I don't really know what we're doing.
Every Saturday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. right here on WBLZ Sports.
Whether it be your industrial, commercial, or residential needs, Gen Service is the electrical contractor for you. The Gen Service team has the expertise, commitment, and educational years to help you solve all your electrical concerns. They have you in their best interest with helpful suggestions to accommodate your every want. Give them a call, no matter the size of the job, at 740-438-7173. Mention WBLZ Sports, and you'll get a discount. That's Gen Service, 740-438-7173.
This is Nick Ficarelli, the mad scientist of sports. Join me and Dr. D, Derek Jones, live every Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Mad Scientist Sports Lab. The big intellects, the experiments on the chalkboard, and the guest subjects will be rolling in. Mad Scientist Sports Lab, only on WBLZ Sports, where we got balls.
Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. He has over 30 years of painting experience. He's interior, exterior, commercial, or residential. Doug Peffer covers it all. Is your house looking ugh? We'll call on Doug. Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361. Mention WBLZ Sports and get a special We've Got Balls discount. That's Doug Peffer Painting and Pressure Washing. 404-966-3361.
Check out Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL legends live on. We bring you 5 NFL legends every week, sharing their stories and insights, plus our spotlight on the positive. Hear which players are doing great things in their communities. Now on WBLZ Sports Talk Radio and WBLZSports.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and joining me is the Week 1 Offensive Player of the Week, quarterback for the Iowa Barnstormers. It is Drew Powell. Drew, welcome back, man. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you?
I'm doing great, man. Week 1, it's happened. The season is underway, so a big sigh of relief, and I know that you're happy to be back out on that field competing, and you guys got the W. You're 1-0. You've got a tough matchup coming up in a couple weeks for your home opener. But, hey, man, how's everything feeling for you after, your first week in Iowa as a Barnstormer?
It went pretty smooth, about as well as I could imagine. So everything went smooth as far as the first week, as far as camp and how everything played out, heading into the week. So everything was good, man. Everything was A1. I think guys came out and played lights out, and we came away with a W, so that's always good.
Yeah, and of course, I was watching that game, and I thought it was a great game on both ends. Green Bay looks like it's got a pretty tough defense. You guys have a great defense as well. It came down to a turnover, Bryce Enyard with that pick. But, man, how fun is it to throw to a guy like Ryan Ballantyne?
Oh, man, Ryan is awesome, man. Like, we, had a couple practices together so far, and everything was kind of going well, but I guess he's just one of those guys that when it's time the lights show up, he's able to make plays, man. And every time I look up, he's open, and he's a guy that knows when he's open. So that's always important as a receiver. Some guys kind of get open and they don't know it yet, but when you got a receiver that's on the same page and knows when he opens, knows when to slow down and kind of make those adjustments is awesome.
Yeah, and you came from Nebraska last year. You had a few offensive toys on there as well. But even Brady Rowland, he's a phenomenal receiver in this league as well. How great has it been to have the guys that you've been able to throw to on this squad and to work with a coach like Dixie Wooten?
Oh man, that's huge, and it's a big reason why I decided to come to Iowa. Just the weapons that they already had, and with the way Coach Wooten ran his offense. I feel like all of this would be beneficial for me. And Brady, man, another guy that just knows the game and knows when he opens, high IQ guy. So it's always good to throw to them. And when that's a great thing when they kind of hold in on one of our guys, we got other guys that's able to make plays.
All right, man. Well, I got to ask you the tough question then. If it's a jump ball between Ballantyne and Bryce Enyard, who's coming down with it?
Oh, man, I'm gonna have to go offense. I'm gonna have to go offense. Bryce can jump though, man. That was a sweet pick. I was standing there, and it's kind of like, okay, when you see it live and see the guy you're playing with, it's like, okay, yeah, that was a good play.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal play on that one. Like I said, I figured that game was going to come down to a turnover, and it did. But you guys held each other in check all game long. Fourth quarter, you kind of opened things back up again. But you're a multi-threat QB, you can run, you can throw, and you've got the size for it. What was the selling point for you coming to Iowa with Coach Wooten? Like, what was it that he said he could offer you as far as, what a quarterback looks for in an offense and an organization?
I mean, with all the stuff that I already knew about Coach Wooten, actually, he told me a story. He knew about me before I even, knew about me in college, and was kind of, looking at me from there. And when I talked to him, all the stuff that we talked about was spot on, and it was pretty much everything that I wanted. Not that he was telling me what I wanted to hear, but it all sounded good to me. So, and then with the addition of Coach Tim, when I found out he would come here too, it was all good because I had a good relationship with him in Nebraska, and so I wanted to have all those good vibes and everything is good in here together. So it's a lot easier to go out there and perform.
Yeah, consistency is a real important thing in a game like football. I mean, you don't want a different playbook to have to learn every season. You don't want a different coach trying to tell you what their game plan is for each game. But I think you've got a great system there with Coach Dixie Wooten, which really surprised me. Not knocking his coaching ability, but it's just he's one of the younger coaches. He could probably still be out there playing, and so you always wonder just what kind of wisdom that they'll have for the team. What kind of a coach is Coach Wooten if you had to describe him to somebody?
Oh, man, Coach Wooten he's passionate. I would say passionate, man. You can tell he's a guy that loves what he's doing and is doing it for all the right reasons. So when you're able to see that, man, it kind of, I can relate there because, if there's anything I'm passionate about, it's definitely football. So when I can see, it's somebody else who's kind of, we're on the same page with that. But, he's still, like you said, in practice, you would think he still wanted to get out there. He's demonstrating and going through all the drills, very, flying around at practice and stuff like that. So it's all fun. He's a fun guy to work with.
Yeah, he's definitely fun. I follow him on Snapchat, and he's always all over that thing. But he's a great coach. Well,
yeah.
You and Ballantyne weren't the only ones that got some honorable mention in awards this week. On special teams, kicker Cody Barber, who is a good friend of mine and joined you guys, the Barnstormers, late last season. But he was perfect in the opener, and I guess they were saying that he was a little nervous because Wooten was giving him an earful before the game started. But how important is it to have a guy that you can count on to put up just even that extra point every time as a quarterback?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's big. That's huge, man. And then playing in the indoor game, learning how important that 1 point is, and those missed field goals games coming down to the wire, makes it that much more important. And Cody came through for us 5 for 5. I feel like, every time we had a couple times in the red zone where we weren't able to score a touchdown, but we were able to come away with 3. And that's that's still important, putting points on the board no matter how we can. So if we can knock those down for us consistently, that would be big.
All right, so let's talk about the big one then. Somebody's got to lose this game, and unfortunately it comes as early as week 2, but the defending and reigning champion Arizona Rattlers come to your house for the season opener. I will be at this game, and I couldn't be more excited for how this one is being set up. But, I watched their home opener against Sioux Falls, and we just talked about how important it is to have a reliable kicker and that those extra points add up. This was a game that I saw that there was a few missed opportunities on offense, defense, and special teams. So when you guys host a team like the Rattlers, the champions from last year, although it is a new season, like what kind of mental prep do you have to do for the next 9 days?
I think mentally, it's we get a chance to regroup and kind of get back, have to get a week off to look at those guys and figure out what they're gonna do. So I think as far as mentally, we just go into it preparing for them just like we prepare any other game. But with them being the defending champs, there's always that extra, motivation. I think that's when we get to practice, I think that'll be, kind of the vibe that we got to amp it up. These guys are going to bring it. So got to knock them off. We got to come a little bit harder.
Yeah, and we all know that championships for this league aren't won in March, and they're not won in the second week of the season. But I think that this would be huge game for you guys to come out with the win, not just because it's your home opener, but just because of who it would be against. Are you guys expecting a good ruckus crowd for this one?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure the fans are going to come out and show us a lot of support. We definitely been having the support around the city, so I think they're going to rally behind us and be there and watch a good game.
Now, of course, you guys, with this season being the way that it is with 6 teams, there's no more conferences, so we could get a couple of dream matchups for the United Bowl. Is there any team that you personally would like to play against in a championship just for any particular reason as far as its significance to you?
Honestly, I would say any championship would be significant to me, regardless of who it's against. It might make it a little bit sweeter, but if I can get just get to the championship and then be able to win the championship is all I can really ask for. So I can't really pick out a squad that I want.
Well, we could get you guys and Sioux Falls, which is something that in previous seasons we never could have had because you guys were in the same conference. But it's all kind of fair game now, so that could definitely be an interesting one. Yeah. But as of right now, Arizona is the team to beat. You get your chance to do just that in a couple of days. Has Coach Wooten addressed anything? You guys are on a bye, so I don't know how much in advance he tries to get you guys prepped for the next game on weeks like this. But what's his message been to you guys?
I mean, we're going to take that 1 week at a time, knowing that we got to be able to come out and win these football games to give ourselves a chance at the end of the season. So we got to, we kind of, like you said, we're on a bye week, so guys still are in the gym and stuff like that. No practice, just, taking care of bodies and getting in the weight room and doing the things necessary so we can be ready on Saturday. So that's all it is, just, taking one game at a time and trying to figure out how to win the next football game.
So for someone like you, do you have any personal goals that you want to accomplish this season, or is it kind of championship or bust mentality right now?
Yeah, our championship, man, is the biggest one, the biggest goal on my list. I do have other goals as far as what we need to do to be successful, but as far as the ultimate goal is the championship, and anything short of that is not what we want. So that's the only goal at this point.
So my last question for you then, before I cut you loose, is that in the last 2 years, we have seen not one, but 2 former members of the indoor game get inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The first was Kurt Warner, who was a Barnstormer himself, and the other one was Terrell Owens. And I just want to know if there's been any sort of talk, I guess, around the league or around the team as far as if this changes anything in your guys' mind as far as the chance to get to that next level and that you're right where you need to be in life.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely adds a little confidence and a little motivation when you see those guys get inducted, man. That's awesome, man. For them to come from this league or a league pretty similar to this one is, like I said, it gives you that much more confidence. And then with me being on the same team, walking through those same halls, man, it's kind of surreal to be able to feel like, okay, if I can still, do the things that I need to do, I'll give myself a shot as well. So it's pretty cool to see those guys do that, and I'm happy for them. And they paved the way, so hopefully guys like myself can do the same thing one day.
Yeah, it's a great honor in this league to don the goggles, and you are certainly holding up your end of the deal by playing like a Hall of Famer. So, hey, congrats again on the Week 1 Player of the Week honors, and best of luck when I see you guys out on the field at the Well.
I appreciate it.
March 10th, man. You have a good one.
All right, man. I appreciate you having me on. Make sure you bring the belt.
Oh, I will, man. It's going to be probably down to you and Ballantyne or Enyard, so you got to let him know.
All right, I will, man. I appreciate it.
All right. You take care, man.
All right, you too.
That was Drew Powell, quarterback of the Iowa Barnstormers. Always a pleasure to have the quarterbacks on. They are, pretty much the leaders of their respective teams. And I think that these guys have a lot to say. Some of them may not be the most, interview ready, but I think for the most part, a lot of these guys will shoot it straight with you. He bought into Coach Dixie Wooten and what he was selling, and to be a Barnstormer is kind of So, we talked before the season started about how each one of these teams kind of has a different allure as far as, if you were to join them. Sioux Falls, the championship streak that they went on and just that storied history of, they're always in it no matter what, it seems like. Coach Riggs is one of the best in the business. Arizona, kind of a similar thing. It'd be a great honor to be an Arizona Rattler just because they came from the AFL. And now they're showing why they're one of the best franchises of all time in this kind of environment in the arenas and indoor. Green Bay, title town, right? Great community, great fans. You got a bunch of scouts and pro affiliates up there all the time checking on things. And then you got, with Iowa, Kurt Warner was a Barnstormer, and he went from there to the NFL and now the Hall of Fame. And it's just such an incredible story of his. But it really can happen to anyone. Don't think that you only get, one of these every decade or two. If you want it bad enough, I really think that these leagues deserve a bit more spotlight. But with the issues that you have, like these ones did in the offseason, it's a little hard to give them that spotlight without wondering, why. But these guys, the players, that's a separate thing. And that's why I do the tour, and that's why we have these interviews. It's for them. Anybody listening, like Drew Powell, if you're looking for a quarterback, take a look at him. Why not? So that'll bring us to the point where I'm going to go over the power rankings real quick before Billy Back gets on the show. That's right. That's my second guest from the Carolina Cobras in the National Arena League. We heard from Kenneth Van Huel, who had a strong opinion about that new rule, and now we're going to hear from one of the coaches that broke the news on his own Facebook account and what he thinks of the new rule, that if you play anywhere else, you cannot play for the National Arena League. But let's go over the Week 1 Indoor Football League Power Rankings. And if you're ready, let's take it from the top. And number 1. Let's go in reverse. Number 6, Cedar Rapids Titans. Tough loss to the Nebraska Danger. A lot of people that I've talked to over the last couple of days, including Billy Back himself, believe that Marvin Jones has all the pieces that he needs to make this a great team. It's just going to take some fine-tuning that obviously they weren't as ready as people had hoped week 1. But again, it is only week 1. And number 5, the Blizzard of Green Bay. Another tough loss to one of last year's hottest teams, the Iowa Barnstormers. Great defense. Not sure what to make of the offense. That quarterback change for the whole game. I'd like to just see a coach put it with one guy and be like, you're our guy, and stick with it. But, Coach Williams knows what he's doing, and if he believes that this is the way to do it, then he's going to do it. But it was a very good game otherwise. Tough loss for Green Bay and the home fans. Number 4, the Sioux Falls Storm. Now, according to our preseason rankings, which was basically how the teams finished last year, because without playing a down or a snap, I don't see how you can make any changes to any of these teams before actual football is played. The Sioux Falls Storm down 2 spots. They were ranked number 2, of course, because they were in last year's United Bowl Championship. But tough loss again for them in Arizona. There's a lot of work that needs done with that defense. Hermanson's got his hands full. Only, I think, 2 players returned from last year's offense. Tyler Knight retiring may hurt them all season long, but if there's anyone that can make these adjustments after week 1 and going into the rest of the season, it's Curtis Riggs. The dude is a genius. He's very good. Number 3 is the Danger. They won. It was a pretty convincing win over the Cedar Rapids Titans. And in all honesty, I think they've got something special there. They may be one of the best teams in this small league, but I still think that speaks volumes for what Coach Stout and Adam Shackelford have there in Grand Island, Nebraska. Number 2, the Iowa Barnstormers. Big win over a rival in Green Bay. Tough victory, came down to a turnover. Bryce Enyard with the INT, but it would be the Powell and Ballantyne show that ultimately sealed the fate for them over the Blizzard. And, of course, your number 1, no movement from preseason. The Danger and Barnstormers are both up 1 spot from previously. Arizona Rattlers, reigning champions, win over their the team they defeated in last year's championship in the Sioux Falls Storm. So there you have it, your Week 1 power rankings. And I'm going to go ahead and fetch Coach Billy back, and we will be back with more of The Fan Show right after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo. Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again. So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right? Yeah. And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com, or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and my guest, well, if you made a power ranking of the coaches of the Indoor League, you'd probably find him around number 4, and he might have something to say about that, but we love him nonetheless. It's Coach Billy Back of the Carolina Cobras. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. I'd rather be 3, though. I like my favorite number is 3. So.
It's never good enough for you, Coach. Never. Oh, man. Good to talk to you,
I'm
though.
doing well.
I'm excited for your guys' upcoming season. Looks like you guys just keep making great acquisitions right now. I see a lot of the signings getting shared. So you're building possible dynasty there. Dare I say the D word, but it's a long season, and we'll see just what happens with the Carolina Cobras. But the reason for this conversation this evening is because there was a rule announcement, and I had Kenneth Van Huel, who he's in the CIF with the Omaha Beef right now, and his plan was to play there, and then at the end of that season, because of the differences, he was going to hop over to the NAL, and that will not be possible now, pending him playing a single down in the next couple of weeks for the Beef. So this rule happened. Basically says if you play anywhere else for any other team in any other league, even one time, you cannot play for the NAL. So we've heard the bad. I'm hoping you've got the good. Why is this rule a good thing for indoor football?
Well, first off, I mean, it's a safety issue. You don't see another league, any other place allowing players, the concussion protocols today, going, playing in the league and then playing 5 more games here, 5 more games there. That's more wear and tear in your body. And so I think the main thing standpoint wise is, injury. You go somewhere, your body wears down, you go play again somewhere else, your season's over. But also it's, the NAL is holding things to a higher standard. Either choose us or don't, or choose the league you're in. But once you choose that league, you're not coming to us. And between you and I, the NAL is doing a lot of really good things for players when it comes to apparel, when it comes to uniform sponsors. Adidas is our uniform sponsor. All brand new dental equipment, shoulder pads and helmets, not refurbished. The turf mandate rule, a certain millimeter of turf. You can't land on Nebraska's backyard carpet turf, Wichita Falls backyard carpet turf. It's got to be a certain mandate. There's things there for player safety. Per diem for away games is more, than other leagues. It's just that there's a lot of things that the NAL offers. It may not be this year that when they get to that standpoint, but they're setting a precedence right now of, the National Arena League is aiming for the top. Just like the AFL did back in the day. If you signed a different league that wasn't AF2, then you couldn't come to the AFL. Even I think prior to that, if you signed the AF2, then you were ineligible for the AFL. And that's what they want to get to. They want to get to where each league is, kind of puts that rule in, to to where, okay, you sign a contract, you play it down here, you're ineligible to play anywhere else. You're held to that one league you're in. At first I was against it. I was like, this is crazy. But, the more you think about it, it makes sense because of the fact of safety issues, the fact that it makes a contract, opposed to, guys going to a team, heck, the whatever Gladiator, wherever that is, whatever league that was in, never heard of it. But that team just folded. I just got like 10 emails from players, hey, my team just folded, blah, 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 need a place to play. Well, you probably should have looked into your ownership more, your coaching staff more, the backing of the team more before you sign that contract and chose to sign with that team. And that's what's going to do as well. I mean, there's teams out there that's offering guys X amount of dollars to come play, but when it's all said and done, we've all been offered that money before, and it hasn't always been paid. My first year playing, you were offered, Steve Belisario from Ohio State was offered, X amount of dollars to play. I was offered the standard contract, but by the end of the year, we were both making the same amount of money, zero, because no one was paying us anymore, but we still all played together. So, whether the offer looks good on paper, it all needs to come down, the consistency of the ownership. Will the offer be paid to? I mean, there's teams out there that take care of their guys, I mean, that do it by the books. I'm not going to accuse anybody of doing anything wrong because no one's ever been caught. Places that do it by the books that can recruit just on location alone. Scottsdale, Arizona, you can recruit, just have them come on. It's so nice out there. Plus, do it the right way, take care of guys. It's ran professionally. Coach Guy does a great job running the system up there. Same thing with Sioux Falls, Iowa, even Green Bay. Those are places that do it by the book, that take care of their guys, that guys need to be taken care of. Those are contracts you have to think twice about to sign. But other places, you don't know what you're going to get. You may have to dribble a check to the bank. It may bounce when you get there, but those are things you need to do. Look into, do your homework on, look into, and that's what the NAL is trying to do with this rule, to where it's, hey, sign with us, because we're going to promise you these things that are going to happen, or sign with them, but stay with them. But it's not keeping anybody else from playing us. But if you sign with us and play, you're more than welcome to go elsewhere. You're more than welcome to move up. You're more than welcome to go to a lateral move on a lateral league. But you just can't come back. It's not keeping anybody from fencing. It's just keeping guys from bouncing around and teams to load up. Last year they had a situation in the NAL. One of the main reasons they put it in is, Jacksonville added a few players. Monterey added a few players late in the playoff push, and now you're left with Lehigh Valley and Columbus to get guys. But at the end of the day, Columbus and Lehigh Valley had to play each other. Columbus should have won the championship, but they had their normal roster. So they're just trying to protect themselves, for workers' comp and from teams from loading up. And, I think it's a great start for indoor football. And I think if all leagues did it, it would keep players, to honoring a contract. You saw this year where two teams can't leave a league to join another league. So why can players leave a league to join another league?
Yeah, and that's
well, you got to look at it.
That's actually what I was going to ask you, and I do love all the points that you've touched on as far as, it's for health reasons. I like that. I encourage that because I think that's priority number one, player safety, player health. So the fact that they're not letting these players bounce around all over the place is great. Another thing, from a business standpoint, it is good for business. You're right. There's we all remember Jose Jefferson's situation last year in Colorado and what a nightmare that was, and we don't want that to happen to any coach or any player. So the NAL putting these pieces in place for its future and putting essentially its money where its mouth is, I think is fantastic. So I applaud them for that. I do feel bad for players that maybe join another team that they really believed in was going to be a good fit for them, and something didn't work out. They get cut or they leave, and now their options are limited. But was any of this based on?
But that being said, there's other leagues too they can join. So that's that's the option for them too. So
to touch on the point that you mentioned about teams trying to hop leagues, was any of this rule brought up with that kind of being their concern, but with players instead of actual teams? Like, we just had all this inconsistency in the offseason where teams are bouncing around. Let's not let that happen with our players. Or was it strictly more of like, hey, here's a thing that we can do for player safety and to make sure that our product is as quality as it can be from start to finish?
Well, I think it has to do more with player safety and the consistency of players in your league. Plus, it puts a lot more emphasis on coaches recruiting. doing their homework, finding out what guys, because late in the year, the guys who are draft eligible right now don't get drafted, don't get picked up, are going to look for a place to play. And so us doing recruiting, trying to find those guys who, are worth bringing in and signing and playing. Like how we got Tony Pulu late in the year in 2016 after he got cut from the Detroit Lions minicamp. And he's been a blessing. He's a heck of a player, a great person. He's on my team anywhere I go. And he's more than welcome. So that's the type of guy you need to find, those guys, to where you're recruiting those guys. You see those guys. I'm putting more emphasis on coaches recruiting, but at the same time, it's kind of like a coach's toad. We signed Mike Green from Iowa. I felt bad for Iowa, but at the same time, he was my player last year. I couldn't sign him, until I got to a place where we were in that limbo with Wichita Falls. So Mike signed with Iowa, and we have a great situation here, and we signed Mike here. If all these leagues, kind of mandate that rule, then there's no stealing players from other teams. It's, hey, you signed a contract with that team, you stick with that team. And I think that's a good situation too, because coaches don't like to cherry pick coaches' rosters. Well, I guess if you respect that coach, you don't. But it happens still to this day. And I think those type of contracts, I'll go as far as saying once you sign a contract with a team, then you're ineligible to play. That's what I would say to do. If you're going to label it to one game, we can sign the guys who get cut. But the contract's a contract. And I would like to see once you're released from your contract, legally binding, you can sign with us. But I see what they're saying. If you play it down, that risk of injury or that workers' comp issue will be there. So it's mainly for the players. It's mainly for teams just not loading up playoff time. And it's just to show that, they value the product that we have in the NAL.
Yeah, and that was something that I wanted to dive into a little bit with you, is because obviously, you and I talked a lot during the offseason. I was like, hey, where do you think you're going to find yourself? And you said, well, I've got this going on over here and these options, and then I've got this over here and what they can offer me. And you ultimately settled with the Carolina Cobras, the expansion team in the NAL. But you like what they're doing now as far as building a solid foundation for the future. And although there was turnover, from last season to this one, they ducked a huge bullet with everything that was going on between the IFL and CIF. How did they do that? How did they manage to avoid that kind of mess happening with them in their league? And what are they doing moving forward to ensure that doesn't happen to them either?
Well, they're trying to advance the league. I know there's about four expansion teams coming in next year that they've talked to, and have mentioned ownership in place, which gets you pretty excited when you hear them. But also, I know there's been conversation probably between leagues, talking about combining or whatnot. But at the same time, when you do sign that LLA, that's kind of a major document that you are sticking to the league. Now, I don't think they're looking to cherry pick or pay for teams to come to the league. Like was accused, which I think is crazy, but I think they're doing things the right way. I mean, the ownership group here, within the NAL and that owns the Carolina Cobras, to me, are very open, transparent. I know, I'll say his name, my guy Jeff Boschee he's been labeled wrong, but I mean, he's just misunderstood at times. He speaks what he thinks. He thinks what he says is the truth, and he believes in what he's doing. He's done a great job with Jacksonville for 9 years. But when you get to talking to him, he's dry. And if you don't understand him, you think he's being a butthole, but he's not. I mean, he's passionate about this game. And so his vision, Rob Storm's vision, and our Commissioner Chris Siegfried's vision of this league is pretty, it's exciting when you think about it and get to know what they're looking to do. So it's been fun. And I said I settled for it. I'm glad I did, but it's been a blessing.
Yeah, and I think you found a good home. I think you've got a good roster of guys. Obviously, it seems like a lot of your Wichita Falls players have followed you over, but you also have Chad Columber, who's going to be one of your guys now, and then you just picked up you and I had a conversation about it early this morning where I was like, how does this timeline match up with Tyrell Pearson? Because I just had him on the show a couple weeks ago talking about his being traded from Green Bay to Nebraska, and then all of a sudden he's talking about being in Carolina. As I was like, okay, what happened, what's going on. So you've got a good group of guys there coming in, and I know that you're very excited to compete against guys like Fuller and Amir and everybody else in there with the rest of those expansion teams. But what's for you, like the one thing that you're trying to get out of this league, the NAL, going into this season?
I mean, we got the champs game 1. We got Jacksonville Sharks game 1, so we don't have an easy road. We got Massachusetts Pirates game 2. Or no, we got Maine game 2, the Massachusetts Pirates game 3. So you see the roster everybody's put together in the NAL. We're just trying to. Our goal is to make the playoffs first and foremost. It's not to be. We want to win every game, but if we don't, so what? We're trying to make the playoffs. And you look at the rosters these teams have. Trevor Kennedy and all those guys from Spokane, half going to Jacksonville, half going to Massachusetts. They had a great team. Maine, Fuller's loading up those guys he had with Richmond that beat us in the playoffs in 2015. To Coach Gibson down in Columbus Lions, getting Jeremy Stoneburner, hands down one of the best centers I've ever seen play. The only one I could see blocked Walt last year pretty well. So, seeing those guys at roster, just like, we just got to, make the playoffs. That's the most important goal, is to make the playoffs, try to get a home playoff game and get hot for the playoffs. And so we're just trying to get guys advanced. Our number one goal as an organization is get guys moved up, first and foremost. Once a guy signs with us, I call the connections we have and say, hey, we got this guy, and you take a look at him and keep him on your radar. Number 2, we work their butts off. And number 3, we try to win, because success brings opportunities. So if we win and are successful, our guys will get opportunities in the next level. So that's our main take. That's why we're here. We're here to advance guys that stepping stone. And we have 24 guys in that final roster that every single one of them is going to be pushed to the next level, and they better have that goal in mind. Otherwise, they're not going to be welcome here.
Yeah, I got it. It's well said. And of course, you're a no nonsense kind of coach, but we love you here on the home of football and nonsense nonetheless. And it's interesting.
Well, I mean, we're a nonsense team. I put up with some nonsense. I like to have some fun, so we deal with nonsense. So we're pretty lighthearted. But on a form winner, I got to act like I'm tough and say the right things. Really, I just want to cuss and crack jokes.
Well, the good news is that I will expand my coverage of the indoor game to include the NAL this season. I'm very excited about that. And so with that, the NAL has been included in this year's tour, which you and I talked briefly about. But you mentioned that home opener, Jacksonville and you guys, April 7th. That is my first NAL stop on the tour. I will be at that game.
All access. I got your hotel room covered. I just want to. I want to get. If you go like to Dollar General and buy a $12 belt, and give that to me or Saya, so we can make that the coach's belt. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you got that nice gold belt for the players. He'll get you a little $12 leather brown or black belt, and keep the tag on it, so the price tag's on it, and then that could be like the coach's award. Whoever wins the games, that's just an idea for you.
I can definitely do that. I love that idea. I do. I really love that idea a lot. Okay, we're gonna.
We could buy off of you, and then we could wear it next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the tag on it.
All right, Coach. Well, you got some more work to do. Keep the signings going. I'm very excited about what Carolina is going to bring to the indoor game this year. But don't forget, the fine doesn't sound like it would be that much if you happen to dress up like White Goodman for that, one of the home games this season. And that costume is out there. It's available for purchase. So you just let me know.
I've got the beard growing right now, so the mustache will be in full effect. If I get that costume. So we're going to try to make it happen. I know one of our owners, Rob Storm, okayed it, said it was allowed. So we'll definitely try to get it done. But I got a sleeper pick for in the IFL this year. I think Cedar Rapids is going to make the playoffs and knock out one of the perennial teams.
From worst to first.
Keep that in mind.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Did you see a post today? They got new uniforms today. That's going to bring a new attitude.
Hey, it's the little things that matter. You're not kidding.
I'm telling you. Look good, you feel good. Feel good, you play good. Play good, you win.
Yep.
So that's my sleeper pick this year. Cedar Rapids Titans might make it to round 2.
Okay, well, we'll check in on that as the season goes on, but of course we'll check in with you and your Cobras as well. But I'll look forward to seeing you on April 7th. And, Coach, as always, it's a pleasure to have you on and to talk some football, so you take care of yourself and don't work too hard.
That sounds good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it every time. It's always a good one.
All right, Coach, you take care.
All right, I'll see you.
That was Coach Billy Back of the Carolina Cobras. He might wear the costume. That would be so great. A coach's belt. I love the idea. It was Coach Kevin Guy that mentioned to me last year in Spokane. He's like, hey, a coach ever gotten the belt? No, but I'm not above it. I mean, it is the player of the game, but Spokane's defense got it last year for their effort as a whole in that great win that they had at home. And, it can be shared and it can move around. So, the belt is... The beauty of the belt is that it's my frickin' belt, and I can give it to whoever I want. I mean, if you've got a game that's like that ends 9-6, right? Nothing but field goals. I'm not going to necessarily say that it would go to one of the kickers, but maybe the guy that hosted the halftime show is the true hero of that game. Maybe Joe Stacy and his awesome play-by-play for Iowa would get the belt one. I mean, it's up to me. And that's what I love about the belt and I love about this tour is that I don't have to stick within any kind of guidelines or criteria. I mean, the player that won it for the Edge last year at that exhibition game that I went to, that was outside the IFL on the tour, he got it because he made the play of the game. It was a sack late, and they got the ball, and then they kicked the field goal to win it. That was the play of the game. So sometimes the player of the game is the one that makes the play of the game. And, yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So if you missed any of tonight's episode, hopefully you didn't because it was a great one. You can always subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio. Replays are aired the day after at 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific on WBLZ Sports. Download the app and enjoy my show as well as so many more that cover everything from football to nonsense and beyond. And then, of course, your home base for all things football and nonsense is thefanshow.com. You can see the power rankings and much, much more and weekly content on there. Episode archive as well. Spreaker.com is where you can listen live and thefanshow.com. And then follow me on Twitter at FanshowOfficial. Like me on Facebook, Facebook.com/FanshowOfficial. The Instagram, simply The Fan Show. And Snapchat as well. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back next Tuesday with 3 all-new episodes of your favorite football and nonsense. Recap Week 2 in the IFL, which happens to be just the one game, as I mentioned. Green Bay Blizzard and the Cedar Rapids Titans looking for that first win. Coach Back believes that they are the sleeper pick. I think Green Bay is no pushover either. We're going to see which one of these teams will find the win category for the first time this season. And, of course, when it comes to the following week, you've got Arizona and Iowa. Someone's got to lose, but we'll talk about that before I make that stop on the Fan Show Tour next week. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's blood? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.